This favorite Spewery episode of Dissecting the 80s is brought to you by our fine supporters over at Patreon. Visit patreon.com/dissectingthe80s and you'll get a bonus episode about one of our all-time favorites, Tremors, at some point in this month, plus instant access to the entire back catalog, hours and hours of bonus content. You get a bonus episode every other month at the $5 tier, and there's all sorts of other goodies there as well. Go check out patreon.com/dissectingthe80s and support this show. Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am Tripp Lano, one half of the Mega Podcasting Powers, and with me, you didn't drag Macho into this, a man with a 2-day head start on you, which is more than he needs. Macho's got friends in every leather lounge, bear bar, and twink tavern from here to the West Coast. He speaks 2 languages. He knows every local bartender. He'll blend in, disappear. You'll never see him again. With any luck, he's got a vodka soda already. The Macho Man, Drew.
Andrew Lano. That was a good one. The only thing you missed was drag queens.
I was trying to keep the rhythm of the original speech, so and I also was trying to amuse myself with the limited knowledge of gay
subcultures. Categories?
Cultures? Is that the word you use?
Cultures is a bit...
I was about to say...
Categories. Gay categories.
Okay, categories felt like a weird word to use for people, and that's why I was
it is, but it's... Categories is the sort of best word for it.
But yeah, I heard that speech. We'll get to it, but one of my top 5 editing jokes of all time. Really masterful. But I can't wait to talk about this movie. I watched this movie with just pure joy in my heart. It had been a while, and boy, does it still work for me as much as it did when I was 6 years old. So we watched Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. You know what that means?
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's your straight people camp. Something's gonna be your straight people camp.
When the mega powers explode.
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott.
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega powers, yeah.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
Can I push the button from Starship Troopers that says, "Would you like to know more?"
Yes, you can.
Okay, because I would like to know more. Please elaborate.
Camp, as we've discussed, is a very ephemeral topic, but when boiled down to it, it's sort of it's things in quotation marks. It's the heightened idea of a thing. And so, in the Indiana Jones universe, all guns sound like that.
Yes, yeah.
And punches sound like you dropped a slab of meat off a 15-story building. Every punch lands like that. And an archaeologist is the hottest professor on campus, and all the girls throw their panties at him.
And the men too.
Well, I don't know. We don't see the men want to fuck, but.
The throng of students outside his room is ready to tear his clothes off, men, women included, I feel.
I just assumed that the men were they wanted to be indie.
Maybe.
But
I'm just saying that zombie shot.
Yes, that was great.
Door, there's some man hands in there too. That's all I'm saying.
So yeah, it's the idea, the heightened idea of everything in this movie.
I get that. Okay.
You can't tell me that the scream, Tina, bring me the axe, doesn't also sound doesn't feel like it would belong in this. You can't see someone in this movie screaming something like that.
Yeah, no, I wasn't saying I thought you were wrong. I just wanted to hear more. That's all. I was I would like to hear you elaborate on this. We've said fairly recently, I think that I had interchangeably used the word camp and broad, which is not maybe correct. So I've been trying to use broad, and this movie certainly is broad as well. But I, as someone who kind of understands camp, but it's more of with a Supreme Court definition of pornography.
I know it when I see
it. When I see it. Yeah. So I would just wanted to hear a little bit more. That's all. I wasn't trying to tell you were wrong.
It's a feeling. We come to this place for magic.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Well, I come to this movie for magic, and boy, should I not wait so long between watches this, because I can't tell you the last time I put it on. And I said this before in the podcast that I had like a long stretch where I really wasn't rewatching stuff. I like a chunk of time where I was like constantly watching the same movies over and over, and I kind of like burned myself out on that and like sort of stopped rewatching stuff more or less, which I think is fine. Like it's good to come to things at different time points, and some people like to rewatch the same movies, and that's fine too. Like any way you like movies is fine with me. I don't really gatekeep how other people enjoy stuff. I just hadn't, so I hadn't watched this movie in forever. And man, like from the opening part where we get and so I watched it on the Blu-ray copy I have, and I've been having like annoying problems with the surround sound system in my house, which I'm not going to get into because who could possibly care? But like I had to like change some settings and wires, and it was like a little bit of annoying problems for me for a while. But man, the THX logo comes up, and that big THX note. That, like,
I watched this on Prime, and I don't think it does the THX logo.
I bet it doesn't, because the Prime version probably. So like the THX thing is very much a signature of quality on the product, and I bet that the stream version THX didn't do.
That's fair. Have you ever seen the sheet music for the THX sound? Because it's wild looking.
It is crazy because it's like a bunch of different instruments playing the same note, right?
It is, but then it's like a bunch of notes stacked on top of each other, so it just like gets fatter and fatter as it goes on.
Oh yeah. So I have a constant battle with my wife over the volume on the television, because like I think it's supposed to be loud, like the THX logo should feel too loud by the time it's over.
Yeah, the THX
like,
for sure.
She's like, I don't ever want it to be that loud in my house. Like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, this is great. Revel in it. You know.
I just hate that there's no. I want to customize a sound mix option that like explosions don't need to be quite so loud, and talking should be a little bit louder than it is.
I actually, not to be like, I feel like I have turned into over the years of doing this podcast, because I re-listened to that Halloween 4 episode, which is way back in episode 65. That's like.
That's just over a year.
Third year.
Sorry, I was thinking once a week.
Yeah. So like that's third year of the podcast. We're now in the 9th year of the podcast. So like a lot of time has passed, and the world has changed, and I'm older, and all sorts of things. Like there's a million of things that change your perspective over time. And I feel like I have done like a lot of bitching in general about like I don't connect with movies these days as much as I used to, and stuff annoys me, and that's fine. Like, you know, a lot of stuff about the culture at large befuddles me, like TikTok and all that shit. But whatever, it's fine. I don't care if you like it. I don't judge you for liking it. I just don't get it, which is fine. There are many things I feel that way about. All that to say, this movie, I didn't have to like jockey the remote every 10 seconds, other than like a couple of very intentionally loud moments of this movie. Like the mix is good. You can hear people when they whisper, and the gun doesn't like blow your eardrums out. And I was like, oh, like it's still fucking possible to do this. And then I was like, oh, right, THX. Like they gave a shit. And so it's like, you don't see that THX logo on streaming, because
I also don't think I see it like
ever
anymore on movies.
No, not really. Yeah.
Like even in theaters.
Dolby, you get a lot now. Yeah, you get Dolby now. Maybe THX is gone, and that's very possible. I don't know.
Which one had the little robot do it? Was it THX? The robot did the little cow noise maker thing? He like plugged it in? Was that THX?
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was like a little like CGI robot that looked kind of like Alpha 5, but his body was more cone shaped. And he like, I think the THX logo was from the side, so it just looked like a big gray block. And I want to say he had a mook, one of those like toys that you like turn over and the thing slowly falls inside.
No idea. That sounds more like a production team, but I like a production.
No, it was sound for sure, because he does it once by himself, and he like gets an idea, and then he plugs the cow toy into the THX logo, and then it's basically like a symphony of like a gradually louder symphony of cow sounds. I'm sure one person out there knows what I'm talking about.
I don't, but I hope that person chimes in at Dissect the 80s on Twitter or on Facebook. Anyway, we have a lot to talk about, so we should get into this movie. But boy, like, man, that THX thing, I was just like, oh, this is great. Even from this opening little, I'm like so on board. We start in beautiful Arches National Park, Utah, place that I hope to be soon.
In universe, is that where it is, or is it just?
I don't know.
Because is India in California?
Get a chyron explaining where we are. I always assumed. So I think the canon is that he's a professor in California, but he may not have grown up there.
Okay.
So I don't know where he grows up. I am sure this is like available on a Wikipedia somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, I have no doubt. But I don't know that information, which is great if you do. But you could tweet us, or I will just be content not knowing. But beautiful, beautiful national parks. And like, I'm going to try not to spend this whole episode being like, boy, it was better with the way they used to make movies.
Yeah, I have a lot of those notes
better.
that look how real this is.
It's like, you just take your fucking actors outside. Just let them go outside. Like, they need fresh air.
And not the parking lot. Real outside.
Yes. Like, I just
not some Atlanta, Georgia parking lot.
It's like, yes, like, oh, look, it's a real fucking mountain. Like, and it's a dusty, real trail that a person is standing on and light is hitting their body. Like, oh, look, like, I get it. Like, it's easier, it's cheaper, there's a million reasons why it makes sense, but it's like your brain knows.
Yeah, we know.
Your brain just knows.
We know what it looks like.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh man, actors outside for a whole movie. Like, wow.
That was one of the things that I was like, I enjoyed about WandaVision, that I was like, yes, it feels like a set, but it feels like we're actually outside. And then I like watched some behind the scenes that was like, oh, by the way, this town square is outside, but we threw in a bunch of shit that wasn't actually there on the day. And like the gazebo was apparently not actually in that town square at all. And I was like, that looks like that is a good use. Supplement the real outside with a few little extra things.
Right. And like, I'll be honest, like we always call stuff out for sucking. Like, I think The Mandalorian fools me a lot.
Oh yeah.
And The Mandalorian is never outside, like ever. And it fools me, whatever. But like, there are times in stuff.
So are there like
edges show.
Are there like treadmills on the ground?
The way the behind the scenes,
because I know it's basically like he's
cool.
in
I recommend,
for lack of a better word, it's a room where all the walls and ceiling are TV screens.
Yes,
but so like when he's like
and they
walking, is it like he's on a treadmill?
I don't know how they do that. Like the room is large enough that you can walk a pretty good distance inside it. If you look at the behind the scenes, it's a huge space. Like the 180 circle camera or screen thing is massive. So I think he can probably walk like 25 yards, 50 yards. I don't know the actual number, but it's like big. It's not a small space. And then they bring in like physical props and stuff that people like hide behind and stuff. Now I'm sure some of that is just green blocks, but I did see some stuff with like a rock. It looked like a fake rock or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. And I maybe they do sometimes go outside, but yeah, I don't know the answer to the question. It could also just be like maybe rear projection looks good now.
Yeah, it finally caught up.
But yeah, it's just beautiful, and it's just, you stick the camera. And the other thing, I don't want to do like too much Spielberg dissection because I know you haven't seen the movie, but I watched The Fabelmans in December, and man, oh man, did I just love that movie so much. And it is like Spielberg doing a movie about himself.
Where does it end in
like
his life?
Obnoxious. Early.
Like Jaws?
He has way before.
So he's not even like, it doesn't even like end with like him.
Nope. It never gets to like I'm on a movie set as a professional.
I figured it would end with like he's yelling action for the first time on Jaws or something.
No, it never gets there. No, and Jaws actually is like pretty late. He would have had to like cover like several things because he did a bunch of television. He actually directed the Columbo pilot, which is a cool fun fact. And I think even Peter Falk was like, "Hey, this guy is way too talented to be here." That's like an actual quote that's almost exactly right. It's close. It's like, you're not supposed to be here. But he did an episode of like an anthology TV series, and I think it was
it the scary Rod Serling Night Gallery?
And the act, yes, it was Night Gallery, and it was Joan
Rivers, Collins,
one of your
Crawford
ladies. It might have been Joan Crawford. It was like one of those like famously hard to work with women of that generation.
Yeah, Crawford or Davis probably.
And she loved him, and they like really got along famously. It worked out very well. Joan Crawford, yeah. Sorry, I wanted to verify that but they apparently got along super well, and like were like friendly until she died.
Well, if she recognized talent, she was going to be very, very nice to you.
That makes sense. But I think he treated her well and like whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But so anyway, he would have had to do a lot. And Duel came before Jaws.
Right, Duel
happened before Jaws. But anyway, so The Fabelmans is like him really diving into the issues he had growing up, which is not to say, like, I think he would tell you, like, he lived a fairly privileged existence. He didn't go wanting for a lot of things, but I think, like, emotionally, he didn't get all the support that he might have wanted or needed at the various times in his life. And so he had, like, a very complicated relationship with his parents, as most people's are. And he really, like, and his dad, by the way, Spielberg's like 77. His dad just died at like 102.
Wow.
It's like his dad died in like 2021 in his 100s, and then they started making this movie. And so it's like, you know, I don't think his dad's the villain of the movie per se, because like I think both his parents are pretty supportive, but like his mom was a free spirit, and the dad was like very analytical and very, you know, technical. And so there's just like the opening scene of the movie is this amazing, like it just a great scene and a great film by a great filmmaker, because it just lays out so much of what you're about to be watching. And it's like they're taking Spielberg to his first movie, and he's like, I don't know, 6 or whatever, 5. And it's The Great Train Robbery.
Mm-hmm.
And his mom is like, movies are dreams projected on the screen. It's, you know, anything can happen on the big screen, whatever. And the dad is like, well, son, film is run through a projector at 24 frames a second. And that the motion of those still images creates a motion picture. And his dad is like doing that kind of like Mr. Science part.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. Like, I get this. Like, this is so obvious, right? And it goes through his whole young life of like making the Super 8 movies he made and all this stuff. Highly recommend the movie. It's long.
Did he produce or direct Super 8? The movie.
I don't. Did he did definitely did not direct it. That's J.J. Abrams. He may have produced.
I feel like I remember it being produced because it was sort of like, you know, alien-y, Spielberg-y.
Yeah. Anyway, all that to say is like there's a really wonderful scene toward the end of The Fabelmans that I don't want to spoil specifically, but I'll just say like involves some advice from a director about like where the horizon should be in your shots, which really doesn't spoil anything. And watching this movie, you're like, oh, this is real. Like the horizon is always at the top or the bottom of the image, because if it's in the middle, it's boring. So when you're watching this movie, the horizon is almost always in the top or the bottom. And it's like, I was watching, you know, you watch The Fabelmans and it's like it's a semi-autobiographical movie and yada, yada, yada. And then it's like, oh no, some of that stuff's real, because like this movie is about daddy issues, and also this like little nugget is in there too. And so it's just, yeah, I don't know. I really appreciated this movie in a whole new way. And I still also loved all of the adventure action.
Is that a Universal picture, I assume?
Fabelmans? Yes.
Okay, so I'm hoping it'll come to HBO Max soon.
Yeah, honestly, it's a good theater movie. Like I know we've bitched about runtime on here a lot as well, but I kind of like a long movie at the theater sometimes. It's like I'm settling in. This is my afternoon.
Sometimes,
here
yeah.
for 2.5 hours.
I won't do a 3-hour.
Because
if you're giving me
I did that and Avatar, and I was like, both of them I enjoyed.
Yeah, like that Batman is 3 hours, and then Avatar is very long. I'm just like,
yeah. Avatar I liked a lot.
Is it still in theaters?
But I saw it in IMAX. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. It might still be at the IMAXs. You should go do that if it's available to you. It's just full on eyeball assault. It's great. It's in the same way that this movie is like a very talented director, like pulling in all of his little tricks. Avatar is like, hey, you got a little Aliens, you got a little Titanic, you got a little Avatar, you got a little Terminator, you got a little Terminator 2, you got a little Piranha, because there's a lot of underwater shit. It's just like
The Abyss.
It's like
I feel like you would rather you say The Abyss than Piranha.
Maybe not. I have never seen The Abyss. We will definitely be doing it next time there's an Avatar movie coming out, because I watched this making of recently that I was blown away by. So many.
We made these movies, and you people are gonna watch them.
Well, yeah, The Abyss, he definitely almost killed some people, as per usual. It's a Cameron joint. But yeah, excited to watch that for the podcast 2 years from now, whenever
Probably
Avatar
in a year.
comes out. I feel like he said every other year, which is a way smarter release schedule than annually to me. Anyway, we should talk about this. We're 20 minutes in, and I have so much to say about this movie. So we start off with River Phoenix playing young Indiana Jones. Gone way too soon.
Definitely gone way too soon. But I also didn't. So I truly don't know the last time I watched like a proper Indiana Jones movie.
Okay.
Like I'm sure I watched them with you growing up. Like seems weird that that would never happen. But like I don't have a lot of strong memories of it. So I was like, when they said 1912, I didn't realize how early it was I was like, yeah, I know these movies are like older. I don't know what the timeline is.
Yeah.
So then when they showed the like clearly Indiana Jones type like leading, like I was like,
Yes.
oh, that's Indiana Jones. Harrison Ford just looks weird, I guess, in this lighting.
Yeah. A lot of people think that this is his stunt double. It's not. It's just an actor that looks a hell of a lot like him. And I think like if you want to analyze this movie on like the real like nerdy, essay type level, which I think is fine. Indiana Jones very clearly looked to this man as a role model.
Oh, for sure.
It's obvious. And so
and the man clearly respects the kid.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, which is rare in a movie. Like the guy is like, the line he has is great, and we'll get there, in a few minutes when we get through all the cool shit that happens in between now and then. But like, I think it's interesting to have this movie start off with like Indiana Jones seeing this person who kind of becomes a role model for him in the face of his dad being very clearly a detached person who's not really, he doesn't really connect with him at all. And then as he gets older and has this adventure with his dad, having the opportunity to sort of like understand his dad a little more and maybe come to respect him a little bit by the end of this in a way that I think is really interesting and very clearly Spielberg working on some shit, like very clearly, and it's the reason why I'm going to talk about Fabelmans a bunch throughout this. So I apologize if you get sick of it, but the thing that I think is so interesting about that movie is he's 77 years old, Spielberg. He has no need to do this like soul bearing movie about his childhood and the issues he's worked on. Just doesn't need to do that. He's at a point in his career where he can do whatever the hell he wants and has been for decades.
He's like, I feel like doing West Side Story, and everyone was like, really?
Yeah. But I think artistically is very interesting and very significant to see somebody like pull this movie out and do this at an advanced age when most directors are way, way past their prime and not making memorable shit anymore. Mm-hmm. For him to make like what I would consider a masterpiece at 77 is extremely rare for any director. And also it's like, for years, you can watch a Spielberg movie and be like, oh, well, here's some of the stuff that you can learn about this person by reading their work. And in this movie, he's like, yeah, most of that shit's right. Like, and I'm talking about it. So I found it really brave is an overused word and probably the incorrect word, but artistically is brave to be like, you know what? I'm 77. I'm going to make this very, 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 very personal movie, at a thing. And it made no money and whatever. But like, boy, howdy, what an artistic achievement.
Did it not make any money?
Impressive to me. No, not really. No. Maybe now that it's been nominated, it'll get some more.
Probably.
But for me, it's the best movie I saw that came out in 2022, which I didn't see a lot of the Best Picture nominees or whatever, but I will be rooting for it for an Oscar, or I guess this comes out after the Oscars, maybe. I forget when this comes out, but I think it's a tremendous movie. I think you should watch it. Maybe that'll be our good tie-in. We're talking about a Spielberg movie close to Oscar.
There we go.
Anyway, I love this opening sequence so much. We hop right into an electric action scene. We've got Indy and his friend observing some grave robbers, and we see very quickly that even at age 12 or so, whatever this is.
Yeah, I think teenager at least.
15, whatever he is here. He's got this strong moral code.
Not everything belongs in a museum. Some things belong back with the country of origin. Let's just say that.
Fair. He doesn't say this belongs in an American museum.
True. It's sort of
so perhaps
the subtle implication of this belongs in a museum. The museum that Indiana Jones works for. Like I don't think the Louvre is be like, hey Indy, we got a job for you. You know what I mean?
Very clearly when he gets the cross, Marcus Brody is like, this will look great in our museum. Like, it's very clearly not. You are correct. It is not going where it's supposed to. But I'm just saying, 12-year-old Indy, maybe he had better thoughts. I don't know.
Yeah, he's very strong about it, but it's strong and a little wrong.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a fair criticism. Honestly, what I really picked up on watching this time, which I hadn't really thought about before, is like all of my favorite characters are supremely confident doofuses. Like that's sort of my guiding light in film.
He's like 10% less doofus than a Kurt Russell performance.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. But he also is like just consistently wrong about things and, getting into fights and doing, like many people have pointed this out. It's not interesting to me to say it, but if he didn't participate in this movie, nothing bad would have happened.
Well, wouldn't his dad have died?
Maybe his dad dies, but the Nazi plot is not for, maybe it's more applicable to Raiders, which we'll get to in a couple months when we do Raiders, but like the Nazis would have failed.
Yeah.
Without him.
Because that's what I thought. I'll just say real quick now, or we're saying it. I thought the Nazis sent him the journal. Like, we can't figure out the ramblings.
Yeah.
Let's give it to him and he'll figure it out for us and we'll just follow him.
I actually think that's a more interesting twist but it would be against the character because the character is a little bit dumb and he's just blunders ahead because he's going to get by on his charm. So anyway, he grabs this cross. He's not afraid of snakes in the beginning, which I find very interesting. Old Indy, I think
it's falling into the snake pit that makes him scared is what we're supposed to glean.
Right. And
also to be young and take a tumble like that and not like be in immediate chronic pain. Like he jumps off. The cliff's probably what, like 5 feet tall when he jumps on it. He goes to jump onto the horse.
No, he's about 5 or 6 feet above the horse, so it's probably closer to 8 to 10 feet, I would say.
Oh, I thought he was closer to the horse than that. Because I was like, you feel like you're gonna hurt the horse now.
I feel like he's about his height. If he was to dangle by his fingertips from the ledge, his feet would touch the saddle.
Okay,
so that's probably about 5
so
feet. So
he goes to jump onto the horse, and the horse moves, and he just like crumbles to the ground. And I was like, oh man. My knees would shatter at this age.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was recently taking a walk, and I didn't actually stumble, but I, like, took a half step climbing a curb, which is embarrassing to say, but I, like, slipped on some loose gravel a little. And I was like, boy, like, if I had fallen just now, like, that's like a month for me of dealing with, like, this twisted ankle,
pain.
Or it's like, yeah, of just being annoyed and slow and limping a little, just like, man, what a dumb thing that would have been. This horse car chase is fantastic. River Phoenix, really great in this movie. As I said, gone way too young.
Was it Stand By Me or The Outsiders?
Yes. Stand By Me. He may also be in The Outsiders, but he's definitely in Stand By Me. But I love like this chase is so dynamic, like the way the dust is pluming that makes this like look so kinetic and frenetic as the car is, weaving. You see this train off in the distance. That's another thing in the Fablemans. You see like Spielberg's always been obsessed with trains because the first movie he saw was the Great Train Robbery. And so he like, as a little boy, like, got the family film camera and crashed his trains over and over to film it because he was like working it out because it was traumatizing for him. Yeah, it's great. Honestly, it's such a good movie. I'm on a real Spielberg kick right now. We get on this train and it's a circus train, which is like, boy, what a genius.
It's beautiful to look at.
Like, and like, animal cruelty is bad and all that. This circus is certainly treating these animals poorly and stuff. But it was 1912 where this movie's set, so this thing exists. And like, what a cool choice, you know what I mean? Like, it could have been any train, but no, it's an animal circus train, which is just
They've
awesome.
got the fake giraffe head sticking out of the roof that like barely moves.
Yes. Yeah. That, and the rhino like is obviously also fake, but it's great. Like,
well, that's like an animatronic real look. Like the giraffe the giraffe heads literally look like they have like them on a pole and someone is just like twisting them back and forth inside.
I don't think the rhino's animatronic. I think it's exactly what you described. I think it's a dude with a pole. Because I read online that it was made as static and then he was like, no, it needs to move. So it had to like blink and like move its mouth and stuff. Oh, okay. I thought it was a puppet more than.
I mean, it might be puppet, but it's a more involved puppet than just like a head on a stick.
Animated, so to speak. Gotcha. The other thing that's interesting about this opening is that, like, we've bitched a lot about prequelitis and how prequels really want to just smash you over the head with, hey, look, this is the origin of that thing you like. Mm-hmm. Well, like, you just mentioned the snake part, right? Where it's like, we see Indy not afraid of a snake, and it makes you go like, huh? Because we know he's afraid of snakes from Raiders, and then he has the big tumble, and it's just like, oh, okay, that
would be why he's afraid of snakes now.
And it's not significantly different than the stuff they do in prequels now, but it just feels more aggressive when it's done in movies these days, I guess, to me. Or maybe
I think it's because it's not a full prequel movie. It's like it's just a 10-minute sequence or whatever in the beginning. So like
That's
throwing
true.
in the two,
Yeah.
I guess 3 if you're gonna give the hat, like the snakes,
Yeah.
the whip, and the hat, which are like the big
and
3.
honestly, the hat thing is kind of a throwaway. Like the reason the hat is there is to do that cool edit.
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
of course, the transition. But
And so yeah, and so obviously it is a prequel thing, but yeah, I don't know. It's just it's interesting that when the movie is better, you don't notice that shit.
well, it's not like he ran past a girl and was like, "Hi, Marion Ravenwood," and like like there wasn't any of that. I truly can't think of another.
Yeah,
like
Well,
a
it's
pregnant
just-
Asian lady, and he's
because,
like, "You should name your kid Short Round." Like I don't know what else to reference.
Yeah, but it's interesting. It's like I'm even thinking about the Solo movie, right? Which is
Didn't
one
see
that I made fun of a lot for this stuff. I know you didn't see it, but like we've talked about it. Anyways, like there's a sequence in Solo where it's like, how did he get his name? And in this movie, there is a joke about him getting his name, right? Like it is.
Kinda, yeah.
It is a part of this movie. And so I don't know, like I was trying to examine this from a critical point of view because like I don't want to be a douchey hypocrite, right? It's like I bitch about stuff like this all the time. I say I don't like it. But for some reason, and I think it just comes down to like when the movie is made by a craftsperson, I don't want to use craftsman because women make great movies too, but a movie's made by many people who give a shit.
Yeah.
It shows.
Movies don't
And
just,
it
as we said
doesn't
before, movies don't
feel-
just happen. A lot of people
Right.
and a lot of effort is
Right.
involved.
Right. Yeah, and like this is a movie, it's like, the special effects people work their tails off, the writers work their tails off, the people who do the craft services probably work their ass off, right? They're traveling all over the world. And so it's just the sum is so important to those things not being annoying, I think, is my only answer to it. Because I was trying to engage with my thoughts on this, is because it's like there are 3 bits in this that are almost identical beats to the beats in Solo.
Oh, really?
And maybe it's just because, they do the name thing. They do.
Oh, the
they
name thing
do
isn't here. The name thing is at the end of the movie.
The last line of the movie.
So like that doesn't feel as prequely to me.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But the hat thing in this is kind of akin to Han Solo and the dice, which I like. That thing still befuddles me.
The dice.
And I guess maybe the difference is, like, did you see any of the Disney Star Wars?
What do you mean?
The 3 Star Wars.
I saw the first one with you, and then I think that
Okay.
is that the one. Did Han Solo die in that one?
I think so.
Whatever one he died in, that's the one I saw, and I didn't see any others.
You only saw.
Yeah.
One. Okay. Well, all right. So
Not for any like neckbeardy political reasons. I just like I'm
you don't
I'm
really
fine.
care about
Star Wars is fine. If it's on, I'll watch it. But like,
Okay, so without getting too deep into the weeds, because I have a lot of, we are 4 lines into 2 pages of notes about this movie, and we need to pick up the pace. The Han Solo has like a pair of dice that hang from the rearview mirror of the Millennium Falcon, basically. Like, and it's not exactly that, but it is that. He has these like little dice, and there's a whole sequence in Episode 8, I want to say, where. Or maybe it's 8 or 9. I don't remember. It's one of those 2, but like Luke like astral projects and he gives those dice to Leia, and there's this like whole thing with him like representing giving this little trinket of Han's to Leia and blah blah blah. And so like there's a big beat in Solo about like where he acquired these dice, and it's just like, I don't know, man. I don't know what the fuck these dice are. Like I'm not a huge Star Wars fan. I would say I'm like a fan without any capital letters, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like Indiana Jones, you can put 3 capital letters in fan for me. Although I don't know I don't know where he's from or how old he is, so maybe not. Maybe I'm just like a capital F fan. But it's like the hat thing is an iconic part of the character versus like something I was like, huh? What are the fucking dice you're talking about?
yeah, like the hat is in every movie. These dice,
Right,
I don't remember. I don't know.
You don't even know what I'm talking about. So
I watched the first 3 movies, and there were no fucking dice in those movies. They played some weird game.
they are.
Is it when they
are
play
in
that
that
stupid
movie.
weird round checkers
No.
game?
No. Space chess. No. Anyway, we should talk about this. I don't know. I felt like I was going to get like, I felt like for as much bitching as I do about certain things, that when I like that thing, I should try to critically examine it. I thought it was worthy exercise, but hopefully other people agree.
Well, I think it's because it's, like we said, it's it's skillfully done, and it's a small, brief segment. If this were like a prequel movie, I'm sure we would hate it. But like,
Yeah.
the three big things that like you're gonna hit, and it doesn't feel like Indiana Jones like only used a whip from out. Like he learned, like he picked it up
Yeah.
and he never put it. It doesn't feel like he never put it down again.
Yes. And also he sucks at it.
Yeah, which I loved. I was so
Which
glad.
I-
I was like, if
yeah.
he picks this up and he's just like, whoosh, 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 I'm mad because that's not how whips work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I assume this is like a little, the other thing with this is I think Harrison Ford actually has a little scar on
He
his
does.
chin. And so this was like, I didn't check that. I should have, but thank you for doing so. But it was like, oh, this is like kind of a cute thing because the actor has a little scar.
Yeah.
Not because like they put it on his face.
Exactly.
You know?
Organic.
Anyway, well, yeah, that's the right word for it.
Also, the roof of
two
this
things
train
I-
would be
go
no
ahead.
more fingerprints hot. And like the fact that they're all just like
Oh, yeah.
crawling around.
Is it metal though?
Aren't all trains? I don't.
Well, but in the Rhino part, it's clearly wood.
I would have thought a metal roof was standard for like trains.
Let me say, you're probably right on a passenger car. I don't know about cargo cars,
Oh.
but even if it is wood, it's still hot as hell.
They're all black
I will give you.
in the
Yes,
desert
yeah.
sun. Like
Yeah, if you put a train through the Utah desert with a wooden train, it's still going to be searingly hot when you touch it. You're totally right. Two things I love on the train sequence. I could do a full podcast about this opening prequel.
Just
I
10
love
minutes,
this so
yes.
much. It's really it's fantastic, but I love that we do multiple instances of, oh god, it's a snake, but it's very clearly an actor wiggling their wrists with a rubber snake.
yeah, and I liked the animatronic snake, the like Jungle Cruise
Yes,
style.
yeah, and just like it twists left to right very stiffly.
Yeah, it pops up out of the water.
I love that. I love the fake looking rhino that like is shot and edited around so that you don't notice it. But for reasons that when you watch these movies in HD, did you catch the rhino has like a thick tear line?
No.
The rhino looks so sad. The rhino has, it looks like a bead of hot glue going from one corner of its eye down to its
No,
mouth.
that's so sad.
But it's like, I know, it's like weeping. It's so bummer. But very clearly, it's, two actors. They have the fake rhino, then they have the actors on the roof, and they have some props or effects person with probably a real rhino horn because it was 1980.
Probably.
Just jamming it up through the roof of this car and like just like, poof, and it's like, man, movies. And I'm not. This is not to say that this doesn't happen now because I've felt this way about movies that I watched 6 months ago. But like, man, I am such a dork for this shit. Like, it's
all real.
It's like, but it's the magic of the movies. It's
We
like
come to this place for magic.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. And it's just, it's hard to talk about this stuff without being a corny dork. But like, it's so cool to get fooled in this way.
Yeah.
And when you can go along for the ride, and again, this is not like because like I felt this way several times over the last year and seeing the movies. Everything Everywhere All at Once made me feel this way. Of just like, when this thing works, nothing is better than it.
Yeah.
I
agree.
Just movies. It's just like, I'm a big nerd for this shit. And it's just nice to watch a movie that makes you feel tingly like that.
Yeah, I always like, I feel like a lot of the times now it's just, actors shot in normal light and then they put a blue filter on it and now it's nighttime and then they CGI in water. Like a boat sequence today is going to look nothing like this. And this looks like a good, like they actually feel like they're on a cargo ship in the rain.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The other one I love, the other shot that I love, Indy falls through the roof into the lion's den right before he picks up the whip that we alluded to a couple seconds ago. And River Phoenix has really long hair and it's covering his face. And he kind of does this, like he lifts his chin and then he
Parts the
uses his
curtains.
fingers and parts his hair like a curtain, which is just like, a little movie nerd Spielberg thing, the curtains up. Love that shot. And then the look on his face when it's like, oh shit, that's a lion is just fabulous.
Apparently the lions
good.
got scared because they didn't like the rumbling and the lights.
Oh, that's sad. I hope they didn't hurt
There were
anybody.
two lions, the lion actors, and they both were scared of the rumbling and the lights.
I'm imagining it was Tippi Hedren and Noel Marshall and I forget what her mom's name was, as like it's a couple of their lions.
Yeah, they were like, we'll loan you some lions. They're chill.
Yeah, yeah. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. Meanwhile, River Phoenix is getting gnawed on. Tippy Hedren's in the back going, "Go loose! Go loose!
Time to the lion!" So he disappears in a magic trunk, which is fun.
Love that. So good.
And I truly didn't know. I was like, oh, is he not going to get away with the cross? I was like, he's going to get away. Obviously, he's Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, maybe he's going to miss the cross, and it's going to be like a thing for the rest of his life. But he gets away with the cross.
Yeah. Yes, he does. But there's this like the really great moment of the sheriff rolling in, being like, "You stole this property." It's great.
Yeah, corrupt law enforcement.
Yeah, and the guy who's officially credited as Fedora
apparently
comes up to
was
him.
originally in the script was Abernathy Ravenwood or whatever.
Oh,
he was
Abernathy Raven.
He was Marion's dad in the original script.
Oh, see, that would suck.
That would suck.
That's a good change.
Mm-hmm.
And the great line, the fantastic all-timer line: "You lost today, kid, but you don't have to like it." And he gives him the hat, which is only to serve the part where he puts the hat on and pushes it down, Indy's chin down, so that we can do chin up. And we're 30 years later, right? Is it 42 in this movie? I forget what year it is.
No, it's 38.
No,
because
30s.
It's 38
okay.
Because Wizard of Oz hadn't come out yet, is what I thought in my head when I saw it.
Oh, okay. All right. Hey,
not the
works.
World War II. Not
well, the World
Hitler
War II
hasn't
stuff
invaded Poland yet.
The World War II stuff catches up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So you were fine.
Also, that hat wouldn't fit him.
But it's
unless River Phoenix got a big old head, that hat's not fitting him.
Yeah. Well, I don't think the hat like fits him. I think it's a little bit too big.
It looks not too big enough, we'll say.
Okay. So, the great transition of like chin down to chin up, and now it's 26 years later. Indy's a full grown man, and he's getting the snot kicked out of him with some classic Indiana Jones punches.
This belongs in a museum. Whose museum, Indy? Whose museum?
The one at the college I work for.
So basically, Indiana Jones is just like an artifact bounty hunter. Like, yes. He pretends it's all like this should be in a museum, but like your museum that hired you to steal the thing.
We say this a lot in this show. We're talking about movies that are 40 years old.
Oh yeah,
or more. Judging movies from that time with modern views, a lot of them are going to come up wanting. Fair, right? Yeah. Accurate. This is this is almost 100 years ago. It's 85 years ago.
Yeah, you're right.
1938. Nobody was thinking about.
No, I know that. It's just I'm aware of
wait,
that.
Is it 95 years ago? No, I'm so bad at math on the fly.
What?
It's 85 years ago. Sorry, I thought.
Yeah, it's 85.
Wrong. But like, we were lucky enough. We visited London, with our family some years, probably 10 years, I don't know, some years ago. And we went to the British Museum and we saw some amazing artifacts. But like a lot of the things you saw are just stolen. I mean, they're just stolen.
Yeah, that's what I liked in that.
There's no other way to describe it.
That like not opening, but beginning sequence in Black Panther.
Yeah, ruled.
When he was like, "Oh, you stole all this, so we're stealing it back."
Yeah, I thought that was great. So I think it is a little bit unfair to be like, Indiana Jones, you didn't think about who the rightful owner of the cross was in 1938. It's all I'm saying.
I just think it's funny. It's a funny bit.
It is funny. It is objectively a funny bit. I want you to keep doing
because
it.
Because this belongs in the museum, asterisk, the one that's paying me to steal it.
Right.
Honestly, Indiana Jones could have been a great series of like different museums paying him to like go get an artifact for them. That's pretty fun.
Yeah. Also, this drives me insane, this sequence, because it's, Indy on a rocking boat, big storm happening. We see that it's the same
basically
guy,
Indy on what looks like a backlot experience.
Yes. Yeah. We're on a boat called the Coronado. Wink, because this is Coronado's cross. But the man who he's stealing it from is the man who grave robbed it in 1912. And they have a big showdown. There's like this big fist fight. It looks great, staged great. I mean, I if we go through every scene and talk about how great it is, we'll be here for 4 hours on this podcast. But The cross is on a chain. Andy, put the goddamn
why does no one wear
necklace
it?
on. It's he gets hit, it goes skittering across the deck, it gets washed by this water on the deck, it almost goes over, and it's like he picks it up and clutches it and jumps overboard, and it's like, hey bud,
Put it on and tuck it in your shirt.
On.
Stick it in your blouse, Nancy.
Yeah. Right, like take your hat off, throw the chain over your neck, and put your hat back on.
And then the boat explodes. It's a great real explosion.
It is super good. The stunt performer looks way too close to it.
Yeah.
As something I felt several times in this movie.
Although sometimes I feel like stunt performers are like that. They're like, I can get closer to the fire.
Oh, they are. Yeah. I was listening to an interview with an actor, and I'm not going to remember the actor or the movie they're talking about, but it was a scene where a stunt person got lit on fire, and they were like, hey, the record's 59 seconds or whatever it was. Can we do a minute and minute 3? And the director was like, no, like, we're not going to do that. But the stunt person was like adamant they were trying to break this record.
Because stunt people are their own breed.
Yeah.
They'll be like, I can get, if you want to reset that explosion, I can be closer.
Yeah. Like I could get within 10 feet of that. Like, no, stop it.
Don't test this gel.
So we cut to Indiana Jones in class, all the women with the rapt attention. There's no love you.
I was going to say, I couldn't remember which one that was in, but I was like, it's not in this one.
Yeah.
Although I will say, Indy kind of has Ghostbusters 2. Like, he is all of New York in Ghostbusters 2. Because he has had some magical ass adventures, and he's like,
this is prequel.
This is the first movie? Technically?
I thought chronologically.
I thought Temple of Doom was a prequel.
Maybe
I thought it went movie number 2, movie number 1, movie number 3 in terms of chronology.
All right. Googling Indiana Jones timeline because I don't know the answer.
Because later he makes a joke about, I know the arc. So I assumed.
Okay. Maybe you're right. For God's sake. All right. You're correct. Sorry. I had to dig through an article that had like way too much information about the Jones, like when his dad was born.
When his dad fucked.
I was like, Jesus Christ, there's four movies. Just put them in order.
Yeah.
You are correct. Temple of Doom is first chronologically, then Raiders, then this.
He's like, I deal in facts, so let's forget about lost cities. We can't take myths at face value.
Yes.
And I was like, what? No, you can't. You watch someone's face melt off. Someone ripped a heart out of someone and ate it. Like, what are you talking about?
You saw the Ark of the Covenant.
The literal Ark of the Covenant.
like for as far as you're concerned, God is very real.
Yes, which has very crazy implications if we think too hard about it.
Yeah. We like to joke about the Santa is real movies and the havoc that wreaks on any universe you try to put that into. But a universe where unequivocally the Christian God is real,
and he's kind of an angry God who leaves face melting boxes around.
Yes.
Like,
is crazy. He's an Old Testament guy.
Oh, yes, he is. But yeah, that's the whole time Indy keeps being like, why my father believes in the Holy Grail. How stupid is he? And I was like, yeah, bud. What that you've seen up until now says no, that's too crazy.
Right. It's bonkers. I also love, he's got this priceless artifact. I have no idea what the Cross of Coronado is worth, but I'm going to say a lot of money because it seems
probably priceless.
Yeah. He's got it wrapped in an old t-shirt in a desk drawer. Marcus Brody comes in and he's like, let me see the cross. And he just pulls out this bundle from his top drawer. And it's like, I get that he probably doesn't want to have it out of
in
sight,
a gilded box
after all he's gone through. Right. But like, I don't know, man. Like you could have it in your briefcase, which is like by your leg and also like locked. And also you have it in a little case or like at least, I don't know, a nice looking cloth, some velvet of some type, Yeah,
or do the like classic movie, like wrap it in like burlappy and twine.
Yeah. I want you to go down to Joanne Fabric or whatever the equivalent was in 1938, and I want you to get a couple yards of velvet, okay? And I want you to drape this cross in velvet.
There we go. So he talks to this. I'm sorry, not Donovan. Donovan comes in 2 seconds.
Marcus Brody.
Marcus Brody is the one who was like, "Oh, this will look great in our museum," and I guess in other movies, Marcus Brody was like smart and competent, and then because they brought in Sean Connery, they had to make him dumb in this movie.
Yeah,
because he's too dumb. Like,
yeah, I will say, I don't remember Marcus's role in Raiders that much, but he is asked to do a lot in this movie, and he's 10 years older than the last time he had an adventure with Indy.
Is he not? Oh,
I cut him a little slack. Right? Yeah. Well, I'm saying that's chronologically Raiders is first. Yeah. And I think I don't think it's 100% right, but it's like fairly close that Raiders and Crusade take place that far apart in their stories, I think. So like I think they're close to 8 years apart just because like all the actors are that much older. I think that is right, but maybe I'm wrong. I promise that I will get the timeline straight. We're going to do 2 more indie episodes.
Also, I have not been this scared to watch a movie for the podcast since we did the Muppets movie. And I had to like check myself several times. Like, it's Last Crusade. We're watching the Last Crusade. We're watching the last movie in the 80s. It's the Last Crusade.
So I think probably Raiders is the better movie. I'm going to talk about this when we watched it again. And
that's the first one released, right?
Correct. My copy, I owned the DVD box set and I never opened Temple of Doom. Like I had no interest in rewatch. It never, like I sold that DVD box set. Temple of Doom was unopened.
I wonder if Temple of Doom might be my secret favorite because I like the weird darky stuff.
It's going to be tough for me to deal with if that's true.
I mean, I do like this one a lot.
But this one has always been my favorite. I'm sure because it starts with a kid and I was a kid watching it, and much of the reason I like Terminator 2 over the Terminator 2 over the first one. I would watch either of these in a heartbeat. I was just thinking about while watching this, I've never seen either of these on the big screen, and Alamo Drafthouse here in DC was running them, and I almost went just to like take notes for the podcast, and I was like, that's kind of a weird thing to do, but I was like, I don't know, man. I didn't want to do it because we were about to do it for the podcast and then be like watch it again in short succession. But I have not seen these on the big screen. That's definitely on my list of movies I got to collect.
I'm sure it's going to be, this summer going to be re-released.
I'm hopeful. I what I'm really hoping for is I can find somewhere that's showing it in 35 millimeter because that would be cool for me.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Anyway, we get this Beatlemania-esque response from his students outside the classroom.
Yeah. And
we find out that he's like, put them all on a list. I'll get to them in order. And then he hops out the window, which is delightful.
So is he like a local hero? Like he's not in, like someone in New York isn't going to go see the news films and see like Indiana Jones recovers lost artifact.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think they publicize that part.
So he's just like a local hero.
I don't know if he's even a local hero. I think the students just like him a lot. Like, I think he's like the cool.
Oh, you think they don't know he's like a swashbuckler?
I really don't know. I have no idea because he specifically is like, archaeology is not getting out there and finding lost treasure. It's done in the library. You know what I mean?
Which again, and I was like, fuck off, dude. You were the prime example of that's not true.
But I feel like if people knew that, there'd be some kid in the back of the classroom being like, bullshit!
Like, didn't you find a box that melted someone's face off in front of you?
Excuse me, I believe you found the literal Ark of the Covenant? That's right? Like, the actual Ark of the Covenant, like they put Jesus in it, and then you found it.
Yeah.
Also, I'm Jewish, and that means I have a lot of questions now. Like, my whole worldview is significantly tilted on its axis in the last 10 years.
So he sneaks out the window and then basically gets kidnapped?
Yes, he does. We take him into the private quarters of... And it's like, this dude becomes the baddie. It's a twist.
Shocking.
But, like, I don't know, man. Like, this dude has a Bond villain lair. It shouldn't be that surprising.
It's the 80s does the 30s, which is always my favorite.
Yes. Yeah. He's like, oh, these are my priceless artifacts. I have all of these things that are completely insane for someone to have in a private collection.
So he tells them the story of the Holy Grail because he's reading this like broken tablet. And then I don't know if you noticed this, but he goes, the story of the 3 brothers who went for searching for the Grail. And he goes, and then 2 came back from the desert 150 years later. And then there's one guarding the... So is it to say that there's the 3rd brother, the one that stayed behind? Because I was like, he talked about 3 brothers, and then all of a sudden only 2 brothers, and there was no wrap up to the story of like.
He says one stayed behind,
but that wasn't like part of the story they told in here. So I was like,
right. Well, that's the guy we meet later.
I get that now, but I was like, I was like, well, hang on. You said the 3 brothers and then 2 brothers. So, like, did the 3rd brother just, like, fuck off?
No, he says in telling the story, one brother stayed behind and the other 2 emerged from the desert.
The way he phrased it did not say 1 stayed behind. It was 2 emerged from the desert. And the way he phrased it sounded like one of those 2 then did something. And I was like, well, hang on. There were 3.
Okay.
Where'd the 3rd one go?
No, I feel like he says that 1 stayed behind, but maybe I'm making it up. Anyway, this is a whole like back and forth, but just basically just to say, hey, your dad's
He really
missing.
buries the lead in this whole, like, your dad got kidnapped.
It feels like...
You know what it is? No, you know what it is? It's John Hammond in Lost World.
Oh.
Being like, what is her, that, right? Julianne Moore, hey, Julianne Moore's on that island. And fucking Ian Malcolm is like, guess I gotta go see dinosaurs.
I like how you turned Richard Hammond into Sean Connery with your impression.
It's not full Connery.
It's Julianne Moore's on that island is where I put Richard Hammond.
No, because he's got a bit of a brogue.
Yeah, that's what I was just doing.
That was not a brogue.
But his is more of like an Irish lilt. It's like, ooh, Mr. Deany. It's like up there. And like, you know, Connery's down here a little more is where I put them. So I found it funny. Anyway, it's time to go to Venice. Classic map transition.
Yeah, it was
Love
fun.
a map transition. We that's one of our big ongoing jokes on the podcast. So it's nice to see some origins of these things. We have the Aryan princess, Ilsa Schneider, walk up to them. And it's like, again, it surprises you that this woman's a Nazi? Look at her.
Yeah, also speaks with a German accent. She also feels like the
Yes.
prototype for, is it Diane Kruger? Is that her
Yes.
name in National Treasure?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
She
absolutely.
feels like the prototype for that. And also, like, I was like, ooh, Dr. Schneider's a woman. Ooh,
Yeah.
women can be doctors.
Yeah, I really liked them basically doing that, you know, stupid riddle that's like, I can't operate on him. He's my son.
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
Just speak.
Which is basically what they do.
Just stop using pronouns. Just use full names.
Well, they don't. They use Dr. Schneider, so it's like, you know.
Yeah,
it's
Dr. Elsa Schneider.
Yeah. Indy goes all out and trying to have sex with this woman immediately.
Yeah.
Which is delightful.
So apparently she's only 21, the actress.
Is that right?
Yeah, because
That's an old looking.
I was like, they don't seem that crazy far apart in age. No,
Yeah.
he's like twice her age.
Is he almost 40 in this movie?
I think so.
Really?
I'm pretty
Wow,
sure.
Okay.
Because he wasn't like a young act. Because when he did like Star Wars, he was probably in his 30s. I think.
He was born. This says he was born in 42, and this movie came out in 89, so he's almost 50.
Wow.
Yeah, you're right. He looks young. I thought he was closer. Like as you just heard, I thought he was like maybe pushing 40. So yeah, you're right. They're wildly far apart in age. I'm guessing that she was a smoker. She's
Probably.
that ages you up pretty quickly.
When she was a model.
'Cause I would have guessed. Wow. Maybe it's just that model alien face thing, you know, like all models kind of look like aliens.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that's funny. I had the same thought of like, wow, these two look like they're age appropriate, which is very rare.
I also wrote,
And then later,
also wrote, she's
there's
probably a secret Nazi.
And later, there's the great bit where we find out that she had a way more age inappropriate romance with.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Jones.
Did you? So they go to this library that used to be a church, and Indy starts.
This is like my favorite sequence.
Putting the
of whole
puzzle together.
movie. It's so silly.
Did you notice that the fake ass movie amusement park ride set bookshelf behind Indy?
Yes, yeah. It's very noticeable in high def that this.
I was like, oh my god, it looks so bad. It literally is a flat thing with like they've got wooden book spines and like stapled them to this black floating background. It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's very cheap looking. My guess is this is probably like an actual library until they start destroying the floor, and so maybe they had to like
maybe
dupe some stuff later is my guess, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the floor is like painted or carved in a way that you could only see this X when you're like standing above it.
Yeah. And it's, X marks the spot, which is a callback to the speech he was just giving to his students in the classroom. Is like, you don't hunt buried treasure, and X never marks the spot. And he is even a little amused at this being the case. Like, which is I like very much. And then the very good bit of timing using a stanchion to destroy the floor with the guy stamping books in and the front desk.
He's like, this is strange. My stamp sounds like that.
Doesn't the guy kind of give you like an Albert Einstein?
Yes, he does. Also, this sequence again leans into the camp thing for me. That like, of this man thinks his stamp is making the sound of metal on marble. This man who works in a fucking library is like, weird.
So they smash through the floor and they find a secret passage. And this, like, a lot of I loved Indiana Jones later as I was older. I loved the National Treasure movies. And it's like, a lot of the things I really like are a world in which all of the people who came before me were just very into circuitous logic.
Riddles and puzzles.
Yeah. And it's just like, I have to put this away. Well, what could I do? I'll make an elaborate riddle that leads to an elaborate puzzle. And not just like a puzzle that you do with pieces, but like really large scale puzzles.
I have to stand on the top of the Capitol building in Philadelphia and look through special blue glasses.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Or the one in National Treasure that I love so much is, they go down into the caverns and there's this wood and rope. And like, finally, I think it's John Voight who's like, this is all like very old. This is going to be rotted.
Yes.
Like, this is extremely dangerous. And they're like, hey, whatever. And then they proceed to like almost die multiple times because he was right. Like, of course it's
old as rope.
Dangerous. Yeah.
I like the it only I think it's like once a year or something. It'll point to the spire shadow points to the brick or something.
Yes. Yeah. In Raiders, he has to do that whole thing where he like puts the thing on the staff. And then
because that's what his dad's talking about in the beginning, I think. The
thing from Raiders?
I think so. Because he says like, let this, wherever the light shines through this, show me the way or something. So I assumed it was a reference to Raiders.
No, I think he's talking about the stained glass in this library. Oh,
the way he phrased it sounded like the scene in Raiders.
No, I think he's talking about this library in particular. Because his dad, the thing that Sean Connery is working on is the stained glass window that Indy is later like, I've seen this before, and he goes digging for it. Where are we at here? Oh, secret passageway. So, we get these great secret passages, and it's like you were talking about Indy and his like, this belongs in the museum. Like, he's like, okay, fine. I can make some excuses for the time when this was, set and all that, yada, yada, yada. But like, I'm pretty sure in 1938, it was still frowned upon to be like, I need a torch. Better take this
guy's bones,
femur. Yeah. And it's just like, dump his corpse into the water and take this. It's like, I don't know, man. That still seemed like desecration back then.
But also, he said he was in a puddle of petrol or petroleum. So like, he's in a puddle of crude oil.
I think, okay, so my wife made the same observation. I think he's trying to say that there's oil in the water.
On the water,
you mean?
The
water is all oil. Like, it's mixed in, it's like a mixture.
Oil and water don't mix.
Yeah, okay, but like...
Haven't you made salad dressing?
First of all, that's oil and vinegar.
Same principle.
Second of all I was trying to say is it is several fluids he is standing in, regardless of their surface tension and what's the word? The something density.
Viscosity?
No, it's like, how you can like make the shots that have like three liquids on top of each other. It's not liquid density. There's a science where
molecular density.
Maybe that's it. I don't know. There's a term for it that I'm not remembering. It'll come to me as we finish this podcast. I have no doubt. Yeah. But I think he's saying that it's like water and that, not purely flammable.
Because I'm like, he's covered in it, and his hand is wet from this oil water, and he's like, hand me that lighter. And I was like, well, yeah, hang on.
Yes.
Also, vapors are a thing.
Right. So he makes a torch. They go tromping through. They find a huge room full of rats, which is really gross.
They had to breed them especially for this movie, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they needed so many rats, and they can't just like, you can't just like get street rats because they're gross and like
right
diseased.
Huh? I would have assumed there was just like a pet store you could go to
with this many rats.
I'd like many pet stores. I don't know. I assume some PAs, like some pimply PAs, had to be like, hi, we'd like to buy your entire rat supply. And then like just did that at every pet store in Venice or wherever they shot this.
So the bad guys that we would look like bad guys show up and follow them into the secret tunnel.
Oh, also great joke where he sees the rats and goes, "Oh, rats." Great writing.
Yeah.
Great writing. Honestly and truly great writing. Yes, they start getting chased by these guys. Go ahead.
Well, they don't know they're getting chased. They don't know these guys have snuck into the catacombs with them. And they find the shield that is the full inscription, which is weird. Like, why is it one a stone tablet and one a shield? Like, what? I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't either. I think that he says that the tablet was carried by the brothers and broke, and then the other one was buried with his.
Oh, okay.
But I don't remember specifically, so I do apologize.
So he does
are screaming at their phones.
a like rubbing with the rest of the words, and then the people we think are bad guys throw a match into the flame, and I was like, well, they're going to destroy what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And then my brain goes, well, wait a minute. What if they're the Magi from the Mummy? And they are, in fact, the Magi from the Mummy.
Third best Indiana Jones movie.
I agree. It's as I was watching this, I was like, oh yeah, I get what Tripp's talking about when he says this.
Yeah, no, it's not a bit. I very strongly feel that for me, it's Crusade, Raiders, The Mummy with Brendan Fraser, and then the subsequent Indiana Joneses.
Yeah.
They dump the body out of the coffin. They hide underneath, and the rats are like.
I felt so bad for these poor rats.
Fleeing.
They all got exploded.
Yeah. And then Indy dives down. He finds a way out. They make their way through. And I love them escaping out of sewer just outside the library amongst all these people having like a nice
cup of coffee,
al fresco dinner. Yeah. Or coffee, whatever it is. And they're all so horrified. Like they must smell so bad. I think about that throughout the movie. There's a part where Indy showers and you're like, oh, thank God. He needed to freshen up. Immediately he's disgusting again.
And then we get a Venice boat chase.
Love these boats. So good.
I do love these. Well, because this is the classic like Venice boat.
Yes, yeah.
Also, so there's this moment where they can't hear each other over the engine, and she's driving the boat and he's fighting in the back, and she pilots the boat between like two giant metal ships.
Yeah.
And as the music sounds like Jurassic Park music.
It's so super dope.
And the metal screech sound that the boat makes sounds just like a fucking raptor.
Like the Velociraptor. Yes, I said the same thing while I was watching it.
I was like, that must have earwormed their way into John and Stevie. Because,
yeah, I had exactly the same thought. I was like, oh, I bet you're about to say that thing. Sorry for stepping on it. I also noticed the two of them have some of the absolute worst shoes for this. She's wearing heels and he's wearing like very slippery, shiny, old school dress shoes that have no tread, and they're just running on these cobblestones.
Well, all women wore the heels that she's wearing in the 30s, basically.
No, I know, but it's just like you'd think that a woman who knew that she might have to run for her life would maybe structure her day a little better.
Yeah. So he reveals
this boat propeller interrogation is like just magic. It's so
great.
Cool looking.
Well, that's what happened to that woman who survived the Titanic and then was on another boat crash.
She got killed in the second one?
No, so she survived the Titanic and then survived the second one, but basically because
Indiana Jones grabbed her and was like, why are you sinking these boats? And it was like, chung, 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 chung.
Because she had survived the Titanic, thinking she knew that, like, I'm going to need I'm going to want a toothbrush and a cloth, like things that I'm just going to grab these things that I know I'm not going to have on the boat.
Yeah.
So she grabs these things and, I think they got hit by a mine, like a German ocean mine.
Oh, okay.
And the crew was already dropping boats, like lifeboats, into the water, and I guess wasn't communicated to the captain that they were doing that. And he was like, "We're close enough to shore. I'm just gonna gun it." And so they're lowering lifeboats into the water as he's throwing those propellers full blast, and it is just pulling these lifeboats into the propellers like a goddamn Vitamix.
Holy shit!
She's watching her lifeboat get lowered as these other boats are getting sucked into the vortex and being like, well, here we go. And she also can't swim. And
how do you survive the Titanic and not take swimming lessons?
I don't know.
After?
Her name is Violet Jessup.
Okay. I'm going to have to look her up. That's bonkers. That's really crazy.
Yeah. There's a great, it's called Puppet History. They do a whole video about her, and it's just like incredible, her life.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So he and the guy from, I can't remember his friggin' name, the guy from the university, Marcus Brody, are talking in Indy's room as he's in the bathrobe after the shower, like, okay, so we're gonna, we know that the,
Very good robe, by the way.
it's a plush robe.
Yeah, looks nice.
He's like, so, you know, Alexandretta or something. It's like so close to
which is not a name
actual. I was like,
yeah,
Alexandria is the real famous place. Like, we all know that place.
Right. I've never heard of Alexandretta before, which doesn't mean anything. It could very well be a place. I just didn't know.
Yeah. And so Indy's like, you go there, and then I'm gonna go after my father. And he goes into his room across the hallway, and it's been ransacked. And then he goes into Elsa's room, or Dr. Schneider's room, and it's also been ransacked. And when he opens the bathroom door, she's in there like, what? I didn't know anything happened. And I was like, girl.
Indy's got the dick blindness, you see.
He's distracted. But like, I was like, Indy, you don't think that this is weird that she was in the shower? Elle Woods would destroy this case.
She was in the tub and listening to a phonograph very loudly.
Where she was washing her hair. And her curls are still intact. So she did not deactivate the ammonium thioglycolate.
He's like, well, the Nazis are on to us. And you even see it in her face, and it's a good bit of acting from Elsa. I didn't write down the actress's name. I apologize. Where Indy like pulls the Grail diary out of his coat pocket or his robe pocket, and you see her like a little flicker where she's like, son of a bitch, he was holding it. Like clearly she was the one who ransacked the rooms, which, you know, it seems very obvious in general.
Yeah.
But the really good little performance beat from her.
Yeah, so I was confused by her for a minute because I assumed that she was a Nazi, like, she was not the real Dr. Schneider. She was a Nazi pretending to be Dr. Schneider. And then when we find out that she's been Dr. Schneider the whole time, I was like, so you were stooping Sean Connery and still couldn't get this diary? Like, you're just bad at your job, it sounds like.
Yeah. I was recently reading about a group of women who were seducing Nazi officers, getting secrets out of them and then murdering them. And I was like, wow.
Where's that movie?
That's what I said. I literally read this article and I was like, how is this not a movie? Like, how is there not 70 actresses killing each other to play these roles? This seems amazing.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah. So we raid the castle where we find the Nazis, and Indy and Elsa are, you know, making their way around, and Indy's like, oh, my dad's in this room. It's got an alarm.
That's probably a bomb. It says it's wired, so I'm assuming it's a bomb.
No, it's the alarm. That you can see the little box with the bells on it.
Oh, I thought it was a bomb when he said wired.
No. It's an alarm. And this is the first magic whip of the movie where
he's like fucking Catwoman.
This is not how whips work. Yeah, this is not how whips work. This is not in any way how this works.
You can grab things with the whip, but it is not like this.
You can?
You can get something with a whip. It's not like.
Are you confusing a whip with those sticky hands you used to get out of
the quarter machine
grocery store? From the gashapon.
So you can. It's not as easy as movies make it look, but it is a thing that you can do with enough skill and practice. I don't think you can do it the way Indiana Jones and Catwoman do it to like.
Yeah, I mean, Indy puts this thing around whatever. I love this movie, but he puts it around a wire, swings on it twice. Then later he whips around his dad's legs and pulls him to safety from the treads of a tank. It's a little ridiculous.
Yeah, like I think if you could do like you could grab a bottle or like wrap around a bottle or like a handle of like a big switch.
In fairness to what you're saying, this is a thing I see in movies all the time. I don't know if you remember from Dusk Till Dawn.
Yes.
But, Tom Savini, is that his name?
Yeah, Tom Savini,
the makeup guy. Yeah, he has a tiny little whip and he steals someone's beer. I said it out loud, and for some reason my brain was like, no, that's not his first name. And I was like, no, I think it is. I don't know. I'm getting old, man. What do you want from me? I'm about to be 30.
He gave us a free autograph. 2 free autographs.
He's a very nice man who I speak highly of. I just thought I got his name wrong. I wanted to verify. Excuse me. He breaks into the room. Sean Connery busts him over the head with his vase. And then the only concern he has, even after he realizes it's Indy, is, I've broken a very priceless vase.
From the Ming. I always think it's weird that he doesn't say dynasty, which always feels like the very like stodgy old British way to say dynasty.
Oh, that's because he's American.
Sean Connery?
No, Dr. Jones.
Oh. I mean,
Why would he pronounce it that way? He's American. Can't you hear his very
I was gonna
American
say,
accent?
is that supposed to be kayfabe?
Can't you hear his extremely American accent? I'd like a hamburger and some French fries, please. And a nice cold Coca-Cola.
So they rekindle their relationship. They bond briefly.
Very, very briefly.
Until the Nazis burst in and Sean Connery's like, he didn't bring the diary with him. Of course he's not an idiot.
This is so good. The Harrison Ford really sells this moment of like, oh shit.
But also like, how is he supposed to get this far without it?
Right, exactly.
It almost seems like Sean Connery is doing a bit to get the guards distracted.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't think the movie wants us. I don't think that it's supposed to be that, but it feels like it could be that.
Right. And it does build to Harrison Ford taking advantage and gunning down these Nazis. They bust into the next room, and it's the Nazi commander. He's got Elsa with a gun to her throat, and Connery is like, immediately is like, yeah, she's a Nazi. Don't do this. She's a Nazi.
Yeah.
She's a Nazi. Yeah, she's a Nazi. And I love the reveal. Like, how did you know she's a Nazi, Dad? And you're like, oh, she talks in her sleep. It's just like, oh, you're Eskimo brothers. This is weird.
He boned her.
That's probably a racist thing I just said, huh? You probably shouldn't say that anymore.
Probably, but I truly don't know. It might just be a weird, like how snowballing is a term. Like maybe it's from that use of snow.
Yeah. It just sometimes you say things nowadays and you're like, oh, that one feels wrong, eh? Okay, well, they both had sex with the same woman.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I'm not calling anybody a slut. I'm just saying.
We can call her a Nazi.
It'd be weird if you found out that you and a parent had sex with the same person, in my opinion.
Probably, yeah. But yeah, he straight up says she's a Nazi, and he doesn't believe his dad.
Right.
And then she's like, oh, by the way, I am a Nazi. Yoink. And she takes the diary.
Yep. And this is where we find out that Donovan is also a Nazi. He's like, it does a great James Bond villain reveal, like stepping up from a chair.
So I'm like, yeah.
And
he stands up and I was like, yeah, no shit. He was a bad guy. Like, what? Of course he was.
Yeah, of course he was. And so, which says a lot about both of the Jones men, by the way.
Yeah, well,
that they both
Indy can't spot Nazis if they're hot women.
Right. So they're like, oh, there's pages missing from here. Where's the map? And Sean Connery looks at Indy with like relief, like, oh, you're not a complete idiot.
Yes.
You know, you got this one thing right. And this is where we get the bit I was riffing on in the intro. This really great Marcus Brody, you know, he speaks a dozen languages. He'll blend in seamlessly because Donovan's like, he sticks out like a sore thumb. It'll be fine. And he does this whole great, like, you'll never find him. With any luck, he's already got the grail. Smash cut to Marcus aimlessly wandering through a market and being like, does anyone speak English? Or perhaps ancient Greek? Hello? Anyone?
I got so annoyed very quickly with him.
Oh, I love him.
Well, because then literally, so the Shala finds him and he's like, oh, Marcus Brody, come with me. And then when they're stopped by Nazis, Marcus Brody like doesn't have any sense of self-preservation. Again, maybe it comes from being a queer person that like, I'm aware when if someone dangerous stops me, I'm not, he's just like, oh, okay, we're great.
Yeah.
And then Shala literally goes,
he's an idiot.
Oh, our papers, run. Let me find my papers, run, Marcus Brody. And Marcus seems to stand up and like, what are you saying? What?
Yeah. He's kind of like Mr. Bean, honestly.
Who also I can't watch because it's too annoying. But it takes forever for him to run, and then he does that movie thing where they run 5 steps and then turn and watch. And I'm like, you need to get some distance.
Yeah. So they end up with a car gag straight out of Looney Tunes where he just like runs down what he thinks is an alley, but turns out is the back of a truck.
He thinks it's a storefront. He's like, oh, go in the store, find the back exit. And then, no, it's a Nazi truck. Yeah. Cut back to the Joneses, and Elsa is like, oh, Indy, I'm gonna. So when she made out with him, I was like, did she slip him a key? Like, is this some like double, triple, quadruple cross thing happening?
Yeah.
No, she just leaves the room, and then
because there is a bit like that in the Crystal Skull where it's like, I was lying about being a double, Indy. I'm actually not a double.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the guy who's like.
So that might have been in your brain.
Sort of Bosley. He's like
Yes.
very close to Bosley
Uh-huh.
from Magnum PI.
Yeah, I can't remember the actor's name, but yes, very close.
And so Indy tries to get his dad to burn through the ropes with the lighter, but he drops it and the carpet catches on fire and then the room catches on fire.
Yes. I also love that he's like, it's my lucky charm, and it's a lighter with a 4-leaf clover design on it on the Zippo.
Yeah.
Did you catch the Knives Out wheel behind them?
The Wheel of Knives?
Uh-huh.
No, I didn't, but I love that. That was like was my favorite set piece in that movie.
The one in Knives Out is significantly larger, but I thought this was pretty cool.
And then they find their way into the fireplace and a secret passageway.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is just like a weird deep cut or what, but is this woman in this room the inspiration for Frau Farbissina from Austin Powers?
She does really seem like Frau Farbissina from Boston.
She
Powers.
looks and
That's
sounds a lot like her, so I don't know if that's ever been
she
said.
absolutely does. Yeah, this is also extremely Scooby-Doo with the bit of business with the fireplace. Like it's a half a beat away from someone being like, Jinkies!
Yeah, like honestly, I was half surprised it didn't just keep spinning. Just like constantly rotating at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
So they trick the Nazis into running into the fire room and then trap them behind their secret bookcase. And then Sean Connery accidentally discovers his kick-ass secret spiral staircase. I loved this thing.
And Indy takes a huge eat shit fall down these
Down
stairs.
stone steps!
This would hurt so bad.
So Indy decides, he's like, ooh, I have a plan. I'm going to start this boat and then kind of like give it a nudge and we'll hide. And then the Nazis come and see the boat. And I was like, they don't see the boat's empty? Like, it's not a yacht.
I guess, right, but it's like you would assume they'd be laying down because you're going to be shooting at them, I would guess, you know?
Yeah.
I get how this would work for a little bit. But then Indy, like, pops out of this box. They haven't even left.
They haven't even gotten on the, they're like barely on the boat.
Right. Like, wait till you hear the engine start and it pull away, you dipshit. Really great chase sequence on the motorcycles, like we have Indy with the sidecar with his dad in it. And the other thing that's really interesting about this, and I didn't catch it until like the end, I thought about it at this point is when I started thinking about it. And it's like, what's Sean Connery got in this bag? And is it going to come into play later? And it never does.
No, I really wish it did. I also thought I thought he was going to stick his umbrella in someone's wheel. Like what Indy does later to the other guy. I thought he was going to do with the umbrella.
Yeah. Yeah, like he has the umbrella comes into play later with the birds,
I did like
which
that.
is a cool thing. But there's not even a point where he like hits a guy with a suitcase and it breaks and he's just holding the handle, which is the other thing I thought. I couldn't remember with the suitcase bit, and it was like, how great if he had just done a kathunk and he hits someone with it and then he's just holding the handle and like throws it away. But he does like a stick in the spokes to one guy and launches them. Another guy crashes through a gate,
jousted, and I was like, that dude should have been impaled. Like, I know that this is not that kind of movie, but like he should have been a Nazi kebab.
Yeah, it 100% should have been like him on the ground with the thing sticking out of his chest at least. Like it didn't have to be gory, but
yeah. The flip that we get on that motorcycle when he jams the wheel with the thing.
Yeah,
that's a great flip.
Yes, fantastic. Looks great. Great dummy work. And then Indy is so proud of himself and Sean Connery is just winding his watch. It's so good.
He's such an asshole father.
Even our heroes have daddy issues.
And so they get to a crossroads and it says, Berlin one way and then whatever.
Yeah.
And Indy's like, well, we don't need the journal. We need to go to where Marcus Brody is. And then Sean Connery's like, well, no, the journal has how we're going to get how you can get past all of the traps. And then Indy goes, you don't remember what they are? And I went, Indy, he wrote it down so we didn't have to remember. And then 2 seconds later, Sean Connery goes, I wrote it down so I didn't have to remember. And I was like, oh, yeah, yeah.
I also love that Sean Connery just belts him because he says the Jesus Christ and takes the Lord's name.
Yeah.
So we cut to a Nazi rally. Classic.
Oh no! Also, real quick, again, he's like, this obsession with the Grail is ridiculous. You believe in magic, and I was like, you should too believe in magic, Indiana.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You saw the Ark of the Covenant.
You should pull rabbits out of hats.
I love that they're like we've talked about before of like if you use tropes in the right way, they really work in your favor. And we just see like Nazi boots getting dragged along the ground, and then Indiana walks forward in the Nazi uniform, and it's like that's such a great. It's like you all know what I mean. We're just gonna do this.
Yeah, we're cutting ahead, and boy, does book burning and Nazi imagery hit weird in 2023.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then we cut to a close-up of Dr. Schneider, like, watching the book burn and crying. And I was like, yeah, bitch, what do you think they were going to do? Like, you don't get to cherry pick from Nazism.
Right. Also, like, all of it is bad. Like, the part where they want to ethnically cleanse is worse than the books.
Obviously, yes, but, like, I was like, man, like, you can't...
Yeah.
It's the whole thing. It's an all or nothing deal here with the Nazis.
Right. The part where Indy ends up like having to get Hitler's autograph is kind of great. Like Hitler autographs the map to the Grail. It's kind of a nice thing.
That was funny.
Bit.
And then, so they get on an airship or a dirigible. I don't know what it technically is.
Yeah.
And we see that there are Nazis handing out pictures of Sean Connery, being like, "Have you seen this man?" And I was like,
"Yeah, this part drives me insane. Why does he not shave his beard?
Why did neither of them do anything to change their appearance?"
Right.
Put on a mustache.
Like, cut it down to
shave
a mustache.
Your beard.
Yeah.
Put on a wig.
And
I don't know.
And then, like, look, I understand that obviously Sean Connery's character can't read German, but you know when text is upside down. Like newspapers look upside down in foreign languages. So we get onto the blimp, and Indy's like, "Oh, we made it, and let's not count our chickens just yet," or whatever he says.
Yeah.
And then the Nazi guy boards, and one of my favorite scenes, Indy hucks him out the window, and it's like one of those perfect things where the crash pad is made to look like suitcases, so you don't have to hide it, and you just get to see him take this big tumble and do. It's very like what's that Nazi comedy from like the 50s?
The Producers?
Colonel Klink. What? No. TV show. Hogan's Heroes. Is that what it's called?
I have no idea what you're talking
about. There's like a very famous Nazi sitcom about people in not a concentration camp, like a prisoner of war camp with Nazis. But anyway, it's like that very much like Nazi shaking his fist as he's been bested, like 50s energy of just like, Dr. Jones, but the no ticket, and then everyone's scrambling to get their tickets out.
Their ticket.
Mwah. I love it so much.
Then the Joneses talk some more, and Sean Connery pretends that teaching his son self-reliance was when in actuality he's just being an asshole father. You know.
It's like you're saying that you did a boy named Sue to him, which doesn't count.
Yes,
that doesn't count as parenting.
And then the airship gets turned around, and I was like, "Ooh, are they gonna parachute out of this? Because that would be fun." No, it's a tiny biplane. It's even better.
Yeah, they show that plane as they're boarding this ship, or on the matte painting of this ship, and I was like, why would there be an airplane there? And then it's like, oh, right, they fly away in it, duh. But it's like, no, but why is there an airplane there?
I mean, I guess it's the Nazis thought they would could be attacked at any time.
Yeah, and there's probably some blimp expert out there is probably like, actually, the reason is this very logical thing you're not thinking of. Like, I don't know, maybe it can like fly off and tow the dirigible if it needs to.
Yeah, and then Sean Connery has to be player 2.
Yes, absolutely, yes. Or player 1 in a driving level where they give you the gun instead. Like, we gotta drive away. Keep them off me. For 10 minutes. I love that he absolutely destroys the tail of the plane and immediately is like, son, we've been hit.
Fully lies about it.
So good. Yeah.
Also,
you would think that a guy, and I'm talking about Harrison Ford here, who has been in so many plane or space plane crashes between Star Wars, Indiana Jones, what's that, 6 Days, 7 Nights, where he gets stranded on a beach with, is it Anne Heche?
I think it's Anne Heche.
Like you'd think that a guy that got that many cinematic crashes would not want to get his pilot's license, but Harrison Ford crashed a plane for real and hurt himself
twice, I think.
Why, Harrison? Yes, you're right, twice.
So their plane crashes, and I was like, the Nazis don't see where the plane crashed.
Yeah,
it takes them a while to find them again, and then there's the Nazis. They steal a car and drive through a tunnel, and then for some reason the Nazi just like drives like planes into the tunnel and his wings break off, and he was like,
Yeah.
It's sort of that moment in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles where the Nazi plane comes up alongside them and they like make eye contact and the plane keeps going.
It actually felt like a Roadrunner bit to me.
Yeah, I can see that.
The part where it's like somebody realizes they're running and they're not running on ground, they're running in the air, and they suddenly plummet. Where it's like a meep meep. And then,
yes, and then they drive through exploded Nazi.
Yeah, it's like they do this funny bit where the Nazi looks over and is like, "Huh?" And then they absolutely blow this man to pieces. Sean Connery does a reverse Sully, only very far from the Hudson.
Oh yeah, it took me a second. Yes.
He uses his umbrella to scare up a bunch of seagulls and get the plane that's trying to do a north by northwest on them.
Yeah, I've never seen a plane crashed by birds, and I like that. It's a fun one.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and then Sean Connery is very proud of himself, and Indy has like he wants to do the watch whine, but he kind of like begrudgingly is proud of the moment, which I liked.
So the Nazis have...
And he has like, it's sort of like a facial reaction. Sorry. It's like sort of a facial reaction where he's like, oh shit, I guess we are somewhat alike, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you know, the same resourceful,
ingenious.
Whatever. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
So the Nazis have bartered for permission to look for the Ark of the... Not the Ark of the Covenant. Look for the Holy Grail from the king or Shah or Sheik of the country.
Yeah.
And I guess... It seems weird that Indy doesn't think about the fact that his binoculars will glint in the sunlight.
Agreed.
Because they do, and it gives them away, and they blow up their car.
Yeah, it's super great that like he's like, Dad, we're so out of range. Boom! It's so nice.
And then the Medjay attack the Nazi caravan, and it starts probably my favorite sequence of the movie. It's a nice long chunk.
Good. Yeah. And this is another thing of like we've talked before about like action sequences can be too long and stuff, but what I love about this is like there's modality to it where it's like first we have the gunfight between the Nazis and the Grail protecting group, and then we have a horse sequence, then we have a sequence on the tank, then we have a sequence in the tank, then we have a sequence out of the tank. Yeah, and it's just like it's cool to be like it's one long chunk, but it has like sort of mini scenes within the overall
it's dynamic
set piece. Mm-hmm. And really great horse acting too at the moment where
that poor horse must have been so scared
and then gets back up. Well, actually, this is a thing that movie horses learn to do. Like I've seen clips of like
no, but I mean like being around explosions like that. It's probably scary for the horse.
Oh, I'm sure that sucks. Yeah. But I have seen them learn like, okay, you got shot, and the horse like knows how to fall down.
It's like Play Dead with a dog.
Yeah, exactly. Play Dead with a dog.
So Connery goes off script to try and save Marcus Brody and immediately gets kidnapped by the Nazis.
Yeah. It's like, all right, Dad, we're going to get the horses and come back. And Sean Connery starts like making his way down the mountain. It's like, oh man, this is not going to end well. My favorite two of my favorite bits in the sequence, one, the 3-for-1 shot that Indy gets.
Again, camp.
Yeah. Which my wife was like, oh, come on.
I feel like it probably would have done in the 30s. It might have gotten through 2 people.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't have the higher caliber the weapon, the more likely that is. But I have no idea. They're also standing like back to front. Like, nuts to butts.
I just know like Civil War gun, like that bullet was gonna rip through you and 4 people behind you before it stopped.
Yeah. And I also love the part where like Indy blocks the gun with a rock in the tank, and it does like a Looney Tunes like peeled open barrel.
Does that actually happen? Like, is that what it looks like when that happens? Do you know?
I would think it would just explode. I don't think it would do like 4,
prongs.
Like an open, like a tremor mouth, so to speak. I think it would just explode and be a gnarled piece of metal.
Also, somehow the Nazis forgot they were like leading the group, because they're like following him, and then he goes around them, so they turn the whole tank around, and I was like, yeah, did you forget that you were in the front? Like,
yeah, they're on tilt, man. They're trying to kill Indy. So there's like a bunch of fighting that happens here. This whole sequence is really good, but it's hard to go through it beat by beat. But Indy gets into a fight. He bumps into a guy with the periscope, which is kind of
his face gets all squished up into the periscope.
Yeah. Then he ends up hanging by his satchel strap off the barrel of that gun that we just talked about that gets blown up.
Sean Connery inks a Nazi with his pen.
They're really good. Yeah, it's, the resourcefulness of the Joneses is good. It's basically Indiana Jones is hilariously lucky and has a magic whip.
Yes.
That's sort of his MO.
He has the golden lasso of truth.
Yeah. So Sean Connery gets out of the tank and is like trying to help, and then he gets knocked over, and Indy saves him from getting eaten by the tank treads, which we just saw a guy get really gnarly run over by the tank that way.
Yeah, no blood. A pretty bloodless movie, we'll say.
Yeah. Then eventually it leads to the tank is like, barreling towards the cliff, and Indy, we don't know at the moment, but gets out, at the nick of time.
Did they honestly expect us to believe that Indy didn't get off?
It's weird. I wonder how much people knew this was the last one. Well, it ended up not being, but that was 30 years later, 30 something years later. So I do wonder if maybe they had built it up as the last one, and it's not I don't know. Movies are a little bolder back then. It's not impossible that they do something crazy like that,
Yeah. Cause I was like, if they killed Indy now and there were 20 minutes left of Sean Connery being a swashbuckler, I'd be like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
But I was very disappointed the tank didn't explode on impact. I was like,
that's exactly what I said.
I was like, where'd your explosive budget go? You've been doing it the whole time.
Really. Yeah. Great miniature work, but I was sad there was no explosion.
Yeah. So they're like, well, now that the Nazis are gone, we can go find the Ark. I keep saying Ark of the Covenant. We can go find the Holy Grail.
The Holy Grail. Yeah.
I thought we were about to get giant spiders when they were showing this.
Oh.
Because it's all spiderwebby and cobwebby.
Yeah. I do love the sequence where Marcus and Sala, what's his face's name?
I think it's Sala or Shala.
Okay. And those three with Connery are really sad looking over the edge of the cliff, and Indy crawls up 5 feet away from them and none of them notice, and then comes to stand behind them all out of breath.
Yeah.
And they're all very sad, and then Brody kind of does this half turn and deep confusion. It's just a really nice bit of comedy. It's surprising how funny this movie is to me, without being
there's some good jokes.
Yeah, but not undercutting the stakes or the tension of scenes and stuff. It just has these nice beats of comedy. And the hat comes back, of course.
Oh, duh.
So we cut to, we're inside the
Holy Grail temple,
the cavern where the temple where the Grail is, and we see the Nazis sending up a man after man to try to get past these obstacles. And there's a really gnarly decapitation where they literally throw a head.
Yeah,
back
it's
down
great.
The tunnel. And it's funny to me they shoot Sean Connery. We're skipping ahead a little bit here, but the bad guys shoot Sean Connery so that Indy has to go do this.
I keep forgetting that the Grail was for eternal life. And I was like, what is, I was like, you're going to kill him and he's not going to do anything for you. And I was like, oh, right. No.
Yeah. Well, it's a little fuzzy to me that eternal life also means instant healing. Those things aren't the same to me, but it's whatever. But I really we see Indy walk by at least 3 dead bodies. It might be a higher number.
I think so. But
and
it's the penitent man will survive.
Right. Go ahead.
And so I was like, oh, is it because he bows his head and so he misses the blade? It's like, no, he kneels. And so he kneels, and the one that shoots horizontally out of the wall misses him. And then one shoots perpendicularly up out of the floor. And I was like, well, the kneeling doesn't really help that one. So what the fuck?
Right. But also the idea that the third guy, the first 2 men walked straight down the tunnel and got decapitated. The third guy didn't think perhaps I should be a little bit lower,
Yeah, you would think.
I don't think you need the riddle to if the third man down the tunnel. I don't think you need a riddle.
So he goes to the next puzzle, which is the name of God with Jehovah. And he does it wrong at first because he doesn't remember that in Latin it starts with an I or whatever.
Yes.
And he falls through the floor, and we see a great shot from underneath. But if you look underneath, there are no supports. There's no support system or structure in place to say, these are the ones that are not going to fall. So, what?
Exactly. Yeah. Also, it doesn't seem impossible that someone could jump most of the way over this.
Yeah, right?
It doesn't seem like that.
Or it's a skinny hallway. You could just do the, spread wide
on one side
and shimmy.
Yeah. But he gets through it, and the third one is by far my favorite, where they like sort of seamlessly blend the rock so that it looks like there's nothing there.
I wish it was a little more practical when it's revealed.
Yeah,
but
it's hard to do that. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Oh, or we missed earlier when Donovan said he's like, Hitler wants something, but Hitler wants the Grail, but I want the eternal life. And I was like, you think Hitler doesn't want eternal life? Like, that's
right.
Cute.
It is very strange to me that he says it that way. I think, honestly, to say something for modern stuff, I do think the like comp of the bridge would look a little cooler with modern, CGI techniques, where it'd be like the optical illusion of it would look cooler from the side. I think
it would have been like that scene in Bob's Burgers that I always love in the Bleakin episode.
Yeah.
When they tilt the camera and there's that like.
Yeah. So he gets to the Grail room, and all I could think of is this poor bastard, eternal life and only one book to read. Like, I'd rather be dead.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Also,
here?
Where was he peeing? Where was he pooping?
They just used the magic wand and got rid of it.
Is he not like eating and drinking, I guess?
We also don't see a bed, so maybe he doesn't maybe he just drinks the cup of life water and doesn't need to like pee.
Maybe. Also, are Indiana Jones and his father just immortal now? Is that what we're supposed to take away from this?
No. Once you have left, you're only immortal if you keep drinking, and once you can't bring the cup out of the room. Like, that's the whole thing that the guy says is like it, like that. I think that is the whole point of like the same thing we talked about with vampirism or being Superman, is like eternal life is a curse, and the curse is like you can have it, but you can never leave this place.
Or you can leave, but you have to come back and keep drinking, I guess. Like, it seems weird that
I guess
it would be like eternal life if you stay hidden in this deep, dark cavern. Then, like, why would anyone do it?
Right. Well, I think that's the point of it, But
like, even then, but then why would anyone want it if it's like, oh, I can stay alive in this room?
So I think it's supposed to be something that people covet, and then when you like see what it really is, you realize it's not actually something worth coveting. I think that's supposed to be the moral lesson here. Is my guess. Gotcha. My read of it anyway. Anyway, Elsa shows up with, what's that cat's name?
Donovan.
I keep saying the bad guy. Donovan. Thank you. And Elsa picks
Season
out
of the
a
Witch,
cup.
baby.
Thank you. Yes, appreciate that. She very clearly picks out the wrong cup for him on purpose.
Oh yeah,
she picks a full-on Lil Jon pimp cup.
Yeah, it's a gaudy gemstone gold goblet.
He fills this thing from the fountain of the holy water or whatever, and it's in the background you hear, yeah.
But also, like, I love that he just assumes she picked right, because he's like, I'm not a historian, and I'm like, is she?
Yeah. So obviously she picks incorrectly on purpose. Like, you can see it in her face. And man, this rapid aging stuff looks amazing.
He kind of looks like Christopher Lloyd for a minute there.
He does for a second. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So, the classic Knight response, he chose poorly as he turns to dust, which is delightful. Indy picks the cup of a carpenter, the simple wooden one, which is the cup of life. And so now, he knows the secrets. And the knight says, you can never cross the seal with it. You can't take it from this place. So Indy takes it back out to his dad, pours it on the wound, has him drink some. Sean Connery is revived. And then Elsa, you can't trust blonde gals named Elsa. They are untrustworthy.
Or Nazis in general.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that Elsa from Frozen is a Nazi.
Oh, no, she's not. No.
I was just saying that you can't trust her because she crosses the seal almost immediately, and the whole building starts falling apart around them, which looks amazing. Great practical sets.
Yeah, all the different like tectonic plates they built look great.
Yeah. So Elsa gets, falls. She's falling down a chasm. Indy goes to save her, which I still don't understand.
Yeah, I was like, you can let her go. She's a Nazi.
It's fine.
Oops.
She's like reaching. Oops. I almost got her. Oh.
Or do a death becomes her and.
Yeah. Tap her on the nose. She's trying to reach the cup. He's saying, let it go. She, of course, doesn't. Falls down the pit. Then he's falling down the pit, and Sean Connery grabs him. And then he starts grabbing for the cup. And I'm like, is this thing like
is there a pull, like a magic pull to it?
Right. Like, what's happening here?
Or like, I want to hear Indy say, like, this is an important artifact. Like,
right.
It seems the way he's reaching feels like he's like, my precious or whatever.
Yes, it does. Yeah,
and not like,
that's
this belonged in a museum.
Yeah. So he got a fingertip on it, but he's like, let it go, Sean. And so he does, and they go outside. And we've got just a nice bit here with Sala and Indy and Sean Connery, Dr. Henry Jones, and Marcus Brody. And Marcus is like, I'm going to lead us out of here, and then almost falls off the horse.
Immediately falls off the horse.
So they go tromping after him. Indy like sort of pushes him physically back onto his horse, and they go riding off to the sunset. And then if you've seen The Fabelmans, you will really appreciate this last shot because the horizon is in the lower third of the shot. And just so delightful. It was so delightful. Like I was like, oh man, the horizon thing out loud. I was so delighted by seeing that. My wife was like, what? And I had to explain the whole bit. But I mean, obviously, I think it's a double recommend here. It certainly
for
is
sure.
For me. This is a masterpiece. It's the kind of movie I really miss. I liked The Lost City last year with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum and Dana Radcliffe. Yeah. Fun, similar vein, kind of has the rom-com slapped over the top of it, so it's a little closer to Romancing the Stone, which is a movie we're going to have to get to. It's been on and off the schedule like 12 times.
Eventually,
it
yeah.
seems
We
like
keep
something
putting it
I'm
on, taking it off.
to like. Yeah, it just seems like something I'm guaranteed to like, you know?
Danny DeVito's in it, right? Or no?
Huh?
Isn't Danny DeVito in it?
He might be. I don't remember. I think so. But it's an adventure movie from the 80s, so it just seems like so totally in our bag. But yeah, I mean, this is a fabulous movie. It's highly worth your time. It's currently on Prime. I'm not sure if it still is when this episode drops, but it is as of
I'm surprised Disney doesn't pull them onto their streaming.
Yeah, it's weird to me that they don't do that. Maybe they will when it's about to be released.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is a masterpiece of a movie. If you've never seen it, highly worth seeing. I hope you didn't listen to us ruin every beat of the movie before you saw it, but this is a delight, and it was so nice to relive one of my all-time favorites. Next month, for our first episode in March, will be on History of the World Part 1 for that new, tying into that new Hulu show that the trailer just dropped for on the day we recorded this. So catch up with the original with us before you watch the new one, or right after. I forget what the timing of the episodes is. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Please remember to rate it wherever you get it. We like to read those on the air. Subscribe or follow, depending on what your podcast app calls it. And visit us at Dissect the 80s on Twitter or on Facebook, Dissecting the 80s, to say hello. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening to the show. We hope you enjoyed Favorites-buary as much as we did. I have been Tripp Lano.
I will always be Andrew Lano.
Until next time.
Don't you forget about me.
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production.